Today we're going to be looking at some of the stretches that you can do in order to counteract the long-term effects of playing the violin. Particularly in the right arm. So the bow arm takes quite a lot of strain when performing. When we play, it moves forward like this. So if you're in this position for a very long time, what's going to happen to the right shoulder? It's probably going to move forward, and that's what happened to mine. My shoulder over time moved forward to the point that I actually trapped nerves in my neck here, two of the roots of my major nerves, the ulnar and the radial nerve, because my shoulder moved forward. So one of the reasons that I was quiet on YouTube for the best part of a year was because I was actually spending time investing in physiotherapy in order to correct this before I could play properly again. So please don't do what I did, which is to play 6 hours in a row practicing every day and not bother doing the right exercises in order to counteract that. So I was doing all sorts of hand exercises, but I actually had not considered my shoulders quite as much. So here are just some of the exercises that have helped with that. So I'm going to start off with a really simple one, which is just clasping your hands together behind your back like that, just like that, rolling the shoulders up, over and back. So it's really important to roll them back so that the collarbone becomes as flat as you can possibly get it. So that's your collarbone. And then we push our palms together and push the hands back and the shoulders back simultaneously, so that you are getting a really great stretch of the shoulder and pushing the shoulder back as far as you can. Now, if you want to take this a little bit further, you can come around and get an extra stretch by placing the hands on either side. So I'll just show you on this side first. So this one is placing my hands on my right hip whilst clasped together, and here I'm stretching the left shoulder, which also needs TLC, it's not just the right shoulder. And then let's just turn that around so you can see how it looks from the front. And then in order to stretch the right shoulder, I do the same thing, push the arms back like that, and then transfer them over to my left hip like that, and that way I'm getting a nice stretch on the right shoulder, pulling it right back. So it's a really good one. Now, another area that might be impacted from bowing, especially if you play in a band like I did with a drum kit, and you're trying to compete with a very loud drum kit, then you might use a little bit too much pressure on your bow and cause your nerves to take a little bit more than they really need to be doing. So in the wrist, you may find that your wrist becomes slightly painful. So one of the stretches that helps with that is, release that now, so we'll come back into the center. Stretching out the wrists, so you can stretch it that way in order to stretch out all of the nerves that exist here. These get a real battering when we're using the bow, because here, you know, every time that bow hits the string, unless you've got really, really flexible, springy fingers, there's going to be some degree of shock that goes through the wrists. So that's something that you have to be really cautious of. And in order to counteract the effects of long-term playing, we can stretch out the wrist. So if I sit a little bit further back so you can see me better, you want to place the right hand, you can do it with the left hand as well, on the floor like that in front of you. So right down in front of you like that. Now the problem with what I'm doing right now is my right shoulder has moved forward, which then counteracts the work that we're doing on the shoulder. So we actually need to push the shoulder back first and then place the right hand on the floor again. So I'm going to sit a little bit further back so you can see that. So I've pressed my shoulder back, down as well, because I don't want to be pushing my shoulders up. And then, and only then, place the right hand on the floor, like this, and lean into the wrist. So I'm getting a stretch down the inside of the wrist, while simultaneously pressing my shoulder back. And this is absolutely amazing. You can kind of move slightly from left to right in order to impact different areas of the wrist. So sometimes I also turn my hand to face a slightly different direction so that I'm stretching either side of the wrist, and sometimes I keep it so the wrist is facing directly in front of me, and sitting in this position for a very long time whilst watching television. Why not? So that's a really great one. Another exercise that really helped me to stretch out my nerves was this one. So what am I doing here? I'm creating some comedy goggle eyes like this, switching my hands upside down, placing my comedy goggles made from my index finger and thumb over my eyes, and then trying to push my elbows backwards in space simultaneously. And what this stretch does, particularly on the right hand, is stretch out the side of the pinky finger, this side of the pinky finger, which gets a lot of battering when we use the bow. So if you think about how the bow works, the little finger, pinky finger, and the thumb are taking quite a lot of the sort of hard, well, they do a lot of the hard work. The little finger takes the weight of the bow. So if, like when I was younger, I used to often play with the straight finger before I corrected my technique. And what that does is sends sort of shock waves up your little finger, because it's like a car without a suspension system. The fingers act as springs. Like in a car suspension system, they're a system of springs. If they're not springy and they're dead straight, then what you're going to get is like shock waves up the nerves into the wrist, and that's going to cause problems. So if you've been playing like that, especially with loud punk bands like I used to in my 20s, then this one's great because the little finger gets a really good stretch and it should feel absolutely awesome. Here's another stretch that you can do to help counteract the effects of using the violin bow. So I've already showed you a couple of stretches to move the shoulder back. Now here's one you can do standing up, which you can do anytime you have a wall next to you. So basically push the shoulder back, roll them backwards like this first, and then place your hand flat on the wall next to you. And then you basically just pushing the shoulder backwards at the same time as having the hand flat on the wall. Very simple. You can experiment with different hand positions as well, so you could stand further away from the wall with the hand more in alignment with the right shoulder like that, or experiment placing the shoulder further back, the hand further back like this. So keeping the arm straight, or standing closest to the wall and putting the hand even further back like this. Another stretch that can be particularly helpful after playing violin is to stretch out the muscles in the neck and the shoulders, whilst also keeping the shoulder down and back. So simultaneously we can stretch out the nerves in the wrist here. So let's just try that one now. So placing the hand on the wall like this, with the fingertips facing the floor, I want you to push your shoulder down and back while straightening the arm. And then at the same time as pressing the shoulder, the right shoulder down, you can tilt your neck, your head and your neck away towards the left shoulder, away from the right shoulder, which opens up the space between the shoulder and the neck, which often gets very tight when we've been performing violin. So don't forget to push the shoulder down and backwards simultaneously, because you don't want to encourage the shoulder to move forward anymore. And also try, although I'm not doing it, to keep the the right arm as straight as you can. So you can also experiment with different neck stretches. So bringing the head back to center, you can try turning your head this way, looking over your left shoulder, which stretches a different set of muscles, and looking over the left shoulder whilst tilting sending your gaze towards the floor and bringing the head back to center. And then you can do the same thing, looking over the left shoulder and looking up towards the sky a little bit. There's no sky in this room, is there? Another exercise you can do is to stretch the thumb back. So on the bow hand, when you're holding the bow, the thumb will often be in this position, which means that over time, my imaginary bow, over time, it will eventually move forward this way, which then pushes this mount here forwards. So the goal is that we want to have a completely flat palm. So on the left hand, you'll find probably it will be flatter here than on the right hand. So in order to push that back, it's quite simple. You just need to stretch the thumb back as much as you can. So whatever you can do to stretch that thumb back, so whether it's just holding the thumb back like that, that's great. Or trying to open this part here. So there's that little crevice in there. If you get your fingers in there and kind of push that sort of, what this is called the Venus mount, I believe, the base of the thumb. Push the base of the thumb back like that. Sort of trying to open up or push it back with the thumb, depends what's stronger for you. Open up the palm like that. So that's a really great exercise that you can do. Anyway, thank you for watching this video all about the various stretches that you can do to help counteract the long-term effects of playing the violin on the right arm. If you like this video, please subscribe for more content. Obviously don't do any of these stretches without consulting a physician first. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and click the notifications bell to stay in touch with whenever I release another video. Have a lovely Christmas. Thank you. Bye.